Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Earlier this evening, some startling news from the authorities in France. It turns out that the Nice truck attacker, Mohamed Boualel, was not, as first thought, a lone wolf. Instead, prosecutors said today he's believed to have had support from 5 accomplices, all of whom are now in custody. One apparently returned to the scene the following day to film the aftermath of the attack. And after the attack, we were told today, it was a year in the planning, a year in which it never came to the attention of the French security services. Peter Neumann is director of the International Centre for the Study of Radicalisation in London, but joins me now from Washington. Peter, it's beginning to look like an intelligence failure as well as a terrorist atrocity.
It is. It is very unusual that there can be a group of 5 or 6 people planning something like this over a period of a year without anyone noticing. So either they were extremely good at hiding what they were doing, or someone was not paying attention.
If none of them, as we believe, were on any watch lists or had been flagged for particular interest, in what circumstances could they have been overheard or spotted?
I think it's interesting that at the very beginning, neighbors were saying that they had never noticed anything. And that may have been true, but it is very unusual. I don't know of too many cases where 6 people would have plotted without slipping up, without talking to anyone, without being seen for a period of over a year. Typically, these people do come to the attention of some people, of the security services at some point. The only explanation I have is that the French authorities are so overwhelmed right now by the number of cases that quite a number of them are slipping through, and this is, of course, extremely worrying.
Indeed. We know that the so-called Islamic State has described Boualel as one of their soldiers. Would one expect to find links going back to that region in Syria and Iraq, or could the cell be entirely self-contained?
So this is, I think, the big question that the authorities are investigating now, because the fact that they were 5 or 6 people operating together does not necessarily mean that they were part of the command and control structure of the Islamic State. We know Islamic State is both sending back people into Europe that are Europeans and that are carrying out attacks on orders of the Islamic State, and at the same time it is trying to inspire exactly those kinds of people acting on their own accord. It will be very important to find out. The fact that there was no video footage in the video that the Islamic State used to claim the attack, the fact that it took them some time to actually make up their mind seems to indicate that there may not have been a direct link.
How plausible is the lone wolf thesis? Just generally,
I do believe that there are genuine lone wolves. The most famous one in the European context is, for example, Anders Breivik, the Oslo attacker from 2011, who was really on his own, who had no contact to others, who was hiding, and where really no one noticed anything. But in many cases, people often assume there are lone wolves because there's no complete information. The more information comes out, the more it becomes obvious that there were accomplices, there were links, in some cases even links into some kind of command and control structure. So often we say lone wolf, and then as more information emerges, it becomes clear that wasn't the case at all.
I see. Very briefly, if you would, we have even less information about the attempted abduction near the RAF base in Marham in Norfolk yesterday. This clearly is a major cause for concern. How plausible does it seem to you, as Norfolk Police suggest, that it is unable to discount terrorism?
It's not impossible to discount it. And of course, security authorities across Europe have been warning. as with school shootings, with lone wolf attacks, there is a sort of ripple-on contagion effect that people see things like Nice or the Orlando shootings or what happened in Germany on TV and feel inspired to do the same thing. And in fact, that's exactly what Islamic State wants. So it is impossible to discount it because this may exactly be what's happening.
Peter Neumann, many thanks indeed.